Alright, with Season 2 of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid coming to an end a few weeks ago, I want to thank COVID for giving me the ever so slightest reason to continue sitting on my ass, watching anime and making videos. I did get distracted a few times by that mouser that just keeps showing up in my recommendations that I obviously have to watch, otherwise it's just rude really. And also being distracted by a really cute owl. But I've got to say, I love this season even more than the first. Each episode was jam-packed with character development for all the characters I was interested in. Like you, and not you, fuck off, and you especially. But due to all this going on, it makes it kinda hard to remember exactly what happened in the entire season. So to fix that, I think it's time to recap every episode of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid Season 2, the show where the intro just gets better and better each season, as quickly as possible. Obviously expect spoilers. Toru discovers that there's a maid cafe opening up nearby that claims to have the best maids, to which she states absolute bullshit because she doesn't work there, so Toru goes to confront them, whereupon she's hired the second she walks in through the door. A week later, Kobayashi and Kanna go visit Toru at a new workplace where they see Toru absolutely master chefing the shit out of some omelette rices. After cracking the shits because she realizes being a chef isn't the same as being a maid, Toru orders Kobayashi to leave and come back, where she then proceeds to serve both Kanna and Kobayashi an omelette rice with an actual fucking curse on it to make it taste better. Toru then quits her job as a maid because she only wants to be Kobayashi's maid, but all the other workers say they need her guidance, so she agrees to teach them how to do the love curse, which is actually just fucking magic. Later, Toru and Kobayashi see on the news that the hill where they first met has been destroyed, to which they both realize only a dragon could do this, so Toru decides that Elma needs a good punch to the face. We're then introduced to the hill-destroying culprit with the biggest dragon tits of all, Ilulu, a dragon of the Chaos faction who declares that Toru is her enemy and proceeds to really bop it out with her. Elma, after being bribed by Kobayashi with all the sweets she can eat, puts up some bullshit magic barrier that protects the city, which enables Toru to fire her mouth beam, which completely mops the floor of Ilulu. Kobayashi then congratulates Toru on a job well done, and the pair walk home. Also, Lakoa shakes her ass while Shota plays the recorder. Ilulu comes back because she's curious about Kobayashi and believes that she's a man who's horny over Toru, so she pops out a massive dragon watermelons to prove a point, to which Kobayashi tells her that she is a woman and slaps her tits away. Ilulu then proceeds to tell her that she can't accept Kobayashi and Toru because she thinks a human and a dragon can't coexist without suffering and hatred, and believes Toru is only here out of curiosity. Kobayashi retorts by stating that she has a deep bond built of trust and respect with Toru, and even though they have their bad moments, they still accept each other. The episode ends with Ilulu casting some magic on Kobayashi while she's asleep, which Kobayashi later realizes made her grow a penis. Also, Fafnir got banned from his online games and proceeds to look like he died inside. Kobayashi soon realizes that she's now lusting over Toru because of her new penis, which isn't helped by Toru wearing nothing but a towel after getting out of the shower. Kobayashi realizes that Ilulu must be behind this, so she decides to keep a distance for a while she waits for her magic penis to disappear. So obviously the next day, Kobayashi has the sort of luck that only a harem protagonist would have. Toru, having figured out that Ilulu must have given Kobayashi a magic penis somehow, secretly drugs Kobayashi with a love potion in the hopes that the two can finally procreate, but then she accidentally kills the mood when she takes off her maid uniform. Luckily, the next day, Kobayashi remarks that her magic penis has finally disappeared. Some night later, Kobayashi stumbles upon Ilulu on the verge of death. It turns out that a hunter from the Harmony faction is here to kill her, so Kobayashi deploys the Rape Whistle 2000 and begins to carry Ilulu away on her back. Ilulu then comes to and begins to question Kobayashi as to why she helped her, which leads to her having a bit of a breakdown as she relives the memories of humans she used to be friends with but isn't anymore due to the humans in that village killing Ilulu's parents, and the Chaos faction had to enact vengeance upon them. Kobayashi then proceeds to hug her like a loving mother would, which is super adorable, and asks Ilulu if she'll allow herself to be tricked by Kobayashi and to be her friend, but is soon rudely interrupted by the hunter from before. Kobayashi tries to protect Ilulu but is immediately pimp-slapped away by the hunter. Luckily, Toru now shows up, who is now super pissed that Kobayashi was harmed, and proceeds to erase the memories of the hunter and sends him back to the other world. Not long after this, Kobayashi passes out. Upon waking up, Kobayashi is met with Toru and Kanna, as well as a very upset Ilulu, who asks Kobayashi to trick her, which doesn't seem to please Toru all that much. Kobayashi then gets Toru to agree to teaching Ilulu the basics of fitting in the human world, much like she did with Kanna in Season 1. After some absolute fucking nightmare fuel because Ilulu can't transform her hands yet properly, Toru tells Ilulu that she needs to figure out what she wants to do while she's here. After some thought and seeing Kobayashi again, Ilulu decides that she wants to have babies with Kobayashi, which doesn't make Toru a very happy dragon. However, Kobayashi gives Ilulu a mug, which makes her a very happy dragon. Saikawa comes over to play games with Kanna, where she first meets Ilulu after accidentally bumping into her in the toilet. After inviting Ilulu to come play cards with him and getting hit with the hard pass, Saikawa plays cards with Kanna and rubs her belly while nutting until Lakoa comes over, bringing with her a bag of snacks and her massive rack. Lakoa talks to Ilulu, who states that she doesn't deserve to play with the kids because she hasn't forgiven herself yet for trying to destroy the city. Lakoa mentions that she can fix this by rewinding fucking time, because why not, to which Lulu declines. Lakoa then tells her to wait in the bathroom and then hits Saikawa with a P-beam, which forces her to awkwardly bump into Lulu again in the toilet. Lulu then then asks Sakawa if she would accept her even though she used to be violent, to which Sakawa tells Alulu, "It's all G, I'm basically a massive bitch anyway," and the three of them proceed to play cards and play belly rub games until they all fall asleep like little cherubs. Some day later, Kobayashi mentions that she's never looked good in a maid outfit, so Toru assembles a squad so they can figure out how to rectify this. After a few interesting ideas from the group, and Fafnir being a weeb, Georgie puts forward a maid costume idea before getting into a very long and philosophical speech about what makes the maid and the maid outfit. Eventually, Toru states that she'd like Kobayashi to try on her outfit, which she agrees to do so, and the two have a very cute moment together whilst everyone else has seemingly wasted their time. Meanwhile, the Kiddlywinks play Totally Not Monopoly, which brings out the same type of hostility and stress you'd come to experience while playing actual Monopoly. Later, Toru is asked by her cooking neighbour if she has any hobbies, to which Toru then tries to shred out the guitar and woodcraft for a bit before realising that she actually doesn't have any hobbies she's interested in. Toru then comes to the conclusion that she needs Kobayashi to become an idol so she can fangirl over her as a hobby, and proceeds to go a little overboard, I guess? Elma tells Kobayashi that she's able to do a lot of coding work now, so Kobayashi very happily sends her all the work that she's been doing for Elma. After Elma says how amazing Kobayashi is at a job, Takuya states that she's the company's pillar of strength, which Elma takes offense to and challenges Kobayashi to a work-off, so Takuya provides all his work for them to do for the day and proceeds to piece the fuck out. During the duel, Elma tells Kobayashi that she needs to stop sacrificing herself so much for the better of others, to which Kobayashi flicks her on the head and tells her that she's not being a human sacrifice, she's just doing her fucking job, thus ending the work-off. Later, the three of them go drinking, whereupon Takuya and Kobayashi proceed to drunkenly abuse Elma for no real reason. A few days later, Toru is enlisted by the cooking neighbor to help with the neighborhood patrol, during which they come across a couple of delinquents blocking the footpath. After Toru politely asks them to move on, one of them gets violent so she folds him like yesterday's laundry, before getting angry and telling the others to fuck right off. Toru then bumps into Elma, who's just ecstatic to see Toru actually trying to help people for a change, and tags along to annoy the shit out of her and yell at some kids, but mainly to help her look for a suspicious person with black hair dancing like a fool, which just turns out to be Fafnir. Shortly after, the three are surrounded by the exact same game from before, but with more reinforcements, which ends exactly as you'd expect. Kobayashi then takes Toru and the Kiddlywinks to an amusement park, whereupon Sakura has her chance to live a day like a harem protagonist and gets her face licked by both Alulu and Kanna and nuts accordingly. Meanwhile, Toru tells Kobayashi that she has dibs on her virginity. The episode ends with the group riding a Ferris wheel and Toru telling Kobayashi that she could experience an amusement park every day if she just rode her. The first half of this episode is a recount on what Toru and Elma were like when they first met, which goes like this. Upon hearing about a priestess of the Holy Seas that's been visiting all the human settlements and resolving conflict, Toru moves in to investigate, only to find out that it's not a god doing all this, but a fucking dragon. Shock horror. When Toru confronts Elma about why she's doing all this for humans, Elma tells her that humans can provide amazing food and offers Toru a drink. The two begin to hang out for the next few decades apparently, getting to know each other until eventually Toru cracks the shits at Elma for allowing herself to be revered as a god by the humans, and the pair begin to fight, which gets quite intense as the two do some mouth block laser beam thing that somehow doesn't kill either of them. Dragons. The flashback is then ended with Toru and Elma bickering amongst themselves in the present day, while Kobayashi discovers that the two of them are actually just really close friends. The next day, Toru starts to rage at Alulu for lazing about the house and doing nothing, and demands that she goes out and finds herself a job. Toru and Alulu both go out job hunting together, where they bump into Sakura and Kanna at the local candy store, whereupon Alulu is instantly captivated by the shop. Alulu then immediately asks the owner if she can work there, and with further recommendation from Toru, the old lady accepts. Alulu then later gets an endearing head pat from Kobayashi, which is pretty damn cute. On her next day of work, Alulu meets Takuto, the old lady's grandson, who's come over to give Alulu her uniform and is a little taken back by how large her rack is. Alulu then enjoys her work with the kids, and Takuto accidentally falls into Alulu's large fire sacks. Naturally. After waking up with a naked Lakoa trying to molest him, Shoto decides enough is enough and asks Toru and Kobayashi for help to find Lakoa's weakness so he can use it against her in the hope of making her respect him more. Eventually on the walk home, Lakoa tells Shoto that she was once driven out of her homeland and never belonged anywhere until Shoto asked her to be with him, which she's thankful for. Lakoa then says he's a good boy who's trying hard, which is more than enough for her, and tells him that she's, ready when he wants it. Meanwhile, Takuya's parents are coming over to visit him and he wants Fafnir out of the house, but Fafnir tells Takuya a new game has just come out so his weeb ass isn't moving anywhere. After asking Toru how to make him move, to which her stupid idea is to use force, Takuya asks Shoto the next day for help. After realizing that Takuya calls Fafnir Fafkun, Shoto tells him that with the power of this magic marble here, he'll be able to forge a Master Servant pact with Fafnir and make him obey Takuya. Takuya then gives the magic marble to Fafnir, to which he eats and tells Takuya that he's still not fucking moving. The pair begin to have a discussion on why Fafnir allows Takuya to call him Fafkun and why he's here in this world in the first place, where he says that he's basically here out of curiosity, but Takuya believes it to be more than that, before they both duel each other in a fighting game to see if Fafnir will leave the house or not. After being an absolute bitch in class like usual, Sakura and Kanna proceed to go on a long walk to see where the river forks. The two have fun on their little walk while playing little games as they go, which include kicking a deflated ball into the head of a cracked out meth head, and stopping to eat their box lunches which Sakura nuts partway through. They also come across Elma bathing as a fucking dragon, to which Sakura tries to get a picture of her before Elma perception blocks her ass away. The pair eventually reach their goal and share a cute little moment and photo together, where Kanna asks if she'll change when she grows up, and Sakura says she's only ever going to get cuter. Fafnir is making a manga for an upcoming exhibition and recruits the help of Lakoa to be his model. Lakoa proceeds to pose like a pin-up model before Fafnir declares that she needs to pose in a few cursed positions that he needs for the manga, which looks and sounds absolutely fucking terrifying. Lakoa then asks to see one of the finished drawings, to which she doesn't seem to take too well, and then asks Fafnir if he could share some of his booth with her so she can create a book to showcase all of her cosplay photos and sell it. To which he agrees but states that she'll never sell. So naturally, the day arrives and it turns out that Huge Melons, her very accurately titled cosplay book, was a huge success, and Fafnir once again sold a grand total of 0. Meanwhile, Kobayashi sleeps in a little bit and freaks out, before asking Toru if she ever sleeps herself, to which she states that she does now that she lives in this world but she never used to. Toru then bumps into Elma while out shopping for food and the two have a very similar conversation, and Toru states that the only reason she's sleeping in this world is because she's bored, but says she quite enjoys being bored. Later that night, Toru hits Kobayashi with the reverse Uno card and asks why she sleeps, to which she says that she sleeps as a way to conform, and then we're able to see some of the coolest water physics I've seen in a fucking anime to date. Some day later, Kanna's classes formed groups in order to create a newspaper and something of their choosing, so her group, which naturally includes Saikawa, decide to investigate the rumors of a ghost at their school. After Kanna does her best David Beckham impersonation, the group eventually find the room where the rumors started. When they go in to investigate, Kanna discovers a fairy in there and takes it home with her in secret, not before calling him creepy obviously. The fairy then states that he's only in this world by accident and can't figure out a way to get back, so Kanna gets Lulu to open a portal for him and sends him on his way. Shoto decides that he wants to create a magic talisman for his dad as a Father's Day gift, which somehow Lakoa interprets that he's making her a gift for National Tits Day. But never mind. Shoto then works on trying to make the talisman, which ends up with him failing over and over again and almost blowing himself up. Depressed by his lack of success, Shoto then takes a break to play games with Fafnir and Takia, whereupon Takia gives him the advice to not give up and to think about what he might be missing, which leads to Shoto trying to make the talisman again, and this time he's successful in doing so. He then finally gives the talisman to his dad, and Lakoa rewards him by shoving his head up her top for National Tits Day. A few days later, Kobayashi wakes up with the dreaded anime cold, which is obviously 100 times worse than any normal cold a human could get, and so she basically nearly dies. Toru gets really worried about Kobayashi and proceeds to try to make her feel better by giving her food to eat, which turns out to be a fucking nightmare of a dish. However, Kobayashi eats it like an absolute fucking champion. Toru begins to worry about how Kobayashi might die from the fucking cold, and goes to the other world searching for medicine. By the time she gets back with the medicine, Kobayashi's already starting to feel better, but after noticing how much trouble she went through, Kobayashi takes the medicine anyway and pretends it healed her instantly, which makes Toru a very happy dragon. Also, the medicine turns Kobayashi into a cat the next day, but don't really worry about that. Upon finding an abandoned doll at her work, Elula enlists the help of Kobayashi, who takes a picture of the doll and then tells Elula to go into full-on dog-sniffing mode and try and find the owner. While she follows the smell, it starts to rain a bit, which causes her to lose the scent and start to have a little bit of a breakdown, but Takuto comes in and gives her an umbrella that calms her down a bit, and she then tells Takuto that she's invested in this doll's return because it reminds her of the doll she left behind long ago that she regrets. Kobayashi then appears out of fucking nowhere thanks to that absolute bullshit magic, and tells Elula that she knows where the owner is because she's Sherlock fucking Holmes apparently. Later, Elulu sheds tears of happiness as she gives back the doll to the owner. The episode then ends with Elulu making and placing a Takuto doll in between her boobs. Because why not? Fed up with the amount of work they keep getting, Elma raises an official complaint by making a work conditions improvement proposal. After having her first draft laughed at by Kobayashi, Elma continues to work on the document, even using her clairvoyance to spy on all the workers during the day to get a more informative report, until eventually she's summoned to meet the executive director, along with Kobayashi and Takia. The executive director, who Shota's dad remember, wanted to meet the three of them because they're friends with Miss Big Tits, and then tells them that the proposal's rejected and buys Elma out with sweets. Elma then only gets more passionate about the proposal and starts a workers' union where even Toru comes to help her, before eventually conceding and admitting that this is all just so she could line up earlier at the station to get the limited time sweets that they offer. The next day, Elma agrees to be a chaperone for the Kiddlywinks and takes them to the river in the mountains so they can fish, eat, and relax. Elma then eventually loses the kids while she's out there because she has the mind of a goldfish, and after freaking out about what Toru would say to her, she desperately goes looking for them. After trying to talk to a fucking bear and having a snail land on her face, Elma goes into the full fucking dragon mode and immediately finds that the kids are already back at the camp. Elma is initially mad at the kids, but Kanna gives her a flower and then uses some smooth moves to give Sakara a flower to pacify her jealousy, and Elma immediately forgives him as she stuffs the flower up her nose. Meanwhile, Takuto is caught being sucked into the gravitational pull by Elulu's rack. Some day later, Elma invites Toru out for a duel and brings both Fafnir and Kobayashi along so they can stop them if they get too carried away, which I have no idea how they thought Kobayashi was going to be able to stop them, but anyway. During a very fun to watch fight scene, Elma and Toru start to verbally attack each other until Elma breaks down and states that she misses being super close with Toru, and starts to cry when recalling how sad she was when she thought that she died long ago. Toru then apologizes to Elma before the pair finish their duel together happily as friends, to which Fafnir thinks it's just fucking shit and bonks out. The fight ends in a stalemate, and Kobayashi offers to buy both of them dinner, which makes them both very happy. Episode 10 starts with Kanna running away from home because she had a fight with Kobayashi and called her a buttface, and she ends up in fucking New York City, because why not? She then very quickly learns how to translate English into Japanese, naturally, before seeing a girl run by who's running for her life. Kanna then offers to protect the girl, and then follows the three people that are chasing her with just the tip of her finger. From here, we learn that the girl's name is Chloe, and she was kidnapped by those men who happen to be in the Mafia because her dad's some big CEO type lad, which Kanna doesn't give a shit about, just asks to play with her, which is exactly what they end up doing. After a while, Kanna opens up to the girl and tells her how she ran away from home and needs to get home right now before Chloe gets kidnapped by the Mafia again, which makes Kanna quite the angry little dragon. Kanna then shows up at the Mafia hideout as a fucking dragon and sends this fucking bloke flying across the screen while she rescues Chloe, and then flies Chloe back to her home in Minnesota, which is... yep, pretty fucking far away, and the pair agree to meet up again one day. Kanna then returns home to see Kobayashi asleep on the table and gives her a big hug. A few days later, Kanna wakes up on a hot day, and after accidentally spilling all her drink all over her homework and freaking out a little, and sharing some watermelon with Kobayashi, the pair decide to go out shopping to go get some supplies. After spotting a whole bunch of ants go into a manhole, Kanna decides to document all the manholes she sees for her school, which Kobayashi soon realizes to be a bit of a mistake because as it turns out, there's actually quite a lot of fucking manholes where they live. The pair then get caught in the rain and have to seek shelter, whereupon Kanna shakes all the water off her like a dog and saves a ladybug from drowning, before the rain stops and the pair walk home holding hands. That's about it. Kobayashi stretches her back and almost snaps her spine in half apparently, so she decides to go to a self-care shop and ends up purchasing everything in there. Toru, who's not happy with all the shit that Kobayashi just bought, tries to get Kobayashi to eat her own tail to make her feel better, which Kobayashi obviously declines, so Toru, who's now confused, asks Takia and Elma as to why she declined. The pair then low-key mentioned that Toru needs to stop going so over the top to try and help Kobayashi, to which Toru takes a little bit to think about before returning to Kobayashi, offering her tail this time as a massage chair, making both Kobayashi and herself very happy. While she's on the phone to Shota's dad asking about why the code they're working on resembles the magic spells that Toru was writing earlier that day, Kobayashi is invited upstairs to come talk to Toru's dad, the Emperor Demise who keeps showing up at the end of each season seemingly, to which she takes the opportunity to ask him why Toru came to this world in the first place. Toru's dad then proceeds to be a fucking boomer and tells a very long tale about how back in his day he was always fighting, and you little whippersnappers wouldn't know anything about it. But then when he had Toru, he didn't want to force her into the same system that he was forced into, and he wanted her to live freely and make decisions on her own in hopes that she would eventually come to question the Chaos faction's contempt for humans. Unfortunately, he states that Toru ended up going fucking full Leroy Jenkins because she wanted to end all fighting and got heavily wounded before coming to Kobayashi's world. The Emperor Demise then bonks out while telling Kobayashi he still doesn't approve of them as a couple. Kobayashi then comes home and immediately asks Toru for her side of the story, to which Toru then recounts her childhood of running around exploring new lands, finding a sad Kanna who is super adorable and just wants attention, calling Lakoa a pussy for not wanting to fight, and how Elma and Toru eventually went their separate ways. Toru then descends into a bit of madness as she wants to take it upon herself to end all factions and all fighting so she doesn't have to be shackled down by anything, and then gets wounded. Toru then starts to reflect upon herself about how having so much freedom was scary, and then she finally meets Kobayashi, which we know how it goes from there. Toru then tells Kobayashi that because of her, she now knows what she wants to be in life and what she always wanted to be, a maid. The final episode of the season is here, and it starts off just as cute as ever. Kobayashi's daydreaming about Toru while she's at work, and on her way home from work, she bumps into Toru getting the district ready for the summer festival that Alulu and Kanna were talking about at brekkie that morning, and then the pair walk home together. Also, just quietly, I think I've watched too much isekai anime, because when I saw Kobayashi walking across the street like this, I immediately thought this was gonna happen. After helping the girls decide what yukata they want to wear, and also using God to decide which one Toru should pick, which freaks her out a little bit so she picks the opposite, the fam then set off for the festival, where they meet the others. Everyone then does their own thing, such as Kanna walking around holding hands with Saikawa, who has learned how to nut internally, Alulu hanging out with Takuto, where she threatens to turn him into a man, and eventually Kobayashi and Toru walking around by themselves. Kobayashi then opens up to Toru and tells her how she doesn't think it's okay for her to be loved by such an incredible person like she is, to which Toru tells Kobayashi that she's better than all humans because she's a fucking dragon, before declaring that Kobayashi made Toru realize that it's okay to be herself, and that she loves her dearly, which shortly after we're hit with the cliched anime fireworks on time with the love confession type shit. A few days later, Lakoa comes over and invites Kobayashi and Toru to go flower viewing because she knows someone whose flesh is turned into flowers and she doesn't want to waste the opportunity. So the entire gang goes to the middle of nowhere where all these flesh trees are, I guess, that look like cherry blossoms? Okay. Everyone starts to enjoy their time in nature, except for these three who decide to play video games, until Elma takes off her clothes to show her belly face, and so Toru decides that now would be the best time for an arm wrestle competition, which can be summed up like this. Takia gets his shit absolutely fucking mixed by Alulu and breaks his wrist, Kanna loses to Lakoa in a very adorable way, Fafnir scares off Shota, and Toru beats Elma. Eventually it comes down to Toru versus Lakoa, where Lakoa almost wins until Shota cheers on Toru instead of Lakoa, which ends with her crumbling. Toru then gives Shota his agreed upon reward for helping her. Time passes on, and Kobayashi and Toru are now sharing a drink together while talking about how much fun they're having, which gives Toru the idea that now's the fucking moment to spring onto Kobayashi a very sudden marriage ceremony, and uses magic to change both her own clothes and Kobayashi's. Toru then pleads with Kobayashi to say that she loves Toru, to which Kobayashi calls her an idiot and runs away while the credits roll and the season 1 intro music plays. And there we have it. That's the entirety of Miss Kobayashi to date, recapped as much as possible and as quickly as I can speak. There is an OVA coming out eventually, but that's not meant to come out until January next year, and I've got more videos to make in between now and then. So for now, I'll say thank you for watching this video through to the end, and I'll see you next time. Take care.